In this lesson, we're going to be talking about water pollution. And so there are two types of water pollution. The first one is point source, and the second one is non-point source. Okay, so those are two types, point source and non-point source, slightly different. Point source is when we know where it comes from. It comes from a specific source. An example of a point source pollution would be coming from a pipe in an industrial factory. So, okay, and so when we know the exact location or source of where our pollution is coming from, we're able to regulate it and decrease that pollution. We have a specific region where it's coming from. We know how to prevent that from happening in the future. We know who we can hold accountable for that pollution. So it's well regulated. Okay, so that is our point source pollution. In contrast to that, we have non-point source pollution. And so that's when we have water being delivered pollution being delivered indirectly to our water. Okay, so whereas in point source we could determine the exact location or source of where our pollution was coming from, with non-point source we can't exactly figure out where it's coming from. So an example of this might be runoff of crop fertilizer. The two big terms that you're going to see when it's talking about non-point source pollution, either runoff or storm drainage. And because we aren't able to determine the exact source or where it's coming from, it's a lot more difficult to control. And the last thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about groundwater pollution. So groundwater pollution is when we have pollution entering our aquifers and it ends up staying there for a very long time. So, okay, so groundwater pollution is difficult to stop because we don't really notice it until it is too late, and it's also very difficult to get the pollution out of the aquifer once it is already there. So it's practically impossible to remove the pollution once it's there. So it's an out-of-sight pollution. We don't know it's there until it starts affecting either the water that we are getting out of our aquifer, and so it's a difficult type of water pollution to be addressing. And essentially, these are our two types of pollution in our water, point source and non-point source.